As a lifelong resident of Coppell, much like Pete, I virtually have no memory of not knowing who Pete Wilson was. I can remember asking my parents when I was young who that older boy was that rode his bicycle up and down the street all the time with a Superman cape flying off the back. Well, that was Pete Wilson. I then can remember going to the Wilson's fireworks stand at the corner of Bethel and Coppell Roads in Old Coppell, where Heritage Park is today, to buy our fireworks for the 4th of July every year. We would climb that tree behind there, sit in the branches and watch other people come and buy fireworks. That just became a gathering spot, a gathering place in Coppell, long before we ever even heard of the term and the need for gathering places. His family supplied that for us. But it was much later in life when Pete became very instrumental in my upbringing. You see, he was my middle school English teacher, and he was my high school theater arts director. And it was in that theater arts role that he had a huge impact on my life as I began to grow and do things, as we did productions as students at CHS, and then even later through Coppell Community Theater, now Theater Coppell. You see, I spent as many hours with Pete during the seasons when we were doing musicals and plays as I did with my own parents. So they knew they could trust him. They knew that he had my best interest at heart. I am much more the better for having Pete Wilson in my life.
My Wheelice Wilson. How do I come with one word that describes all that he meant to me? Well, there's a lot of words. One I keep coming up with is unimpressed. I worked so hard to make that man laugh or get his approval, get him to chuckle, and I was always met with unimpressed, which drove me insane and made me work harder. I would not stop until I got him to laugh. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. But the days that it worked, the sun would shine a bit brighter on those days. And I miss that.
He was very sassy, as well as kind and generous and a good leader and a creative problem solver. He was sassy. We were just a bunch of high school kids, gathered in a room together who wanted to make a little play, and he would meet us on that level, and he would lead the charge with jokes and free-spirited laughter. He would joke with us and to us and about us in a very loving way. Sassy. That's how I'm choosing to remember Mr. Wilson.
I'm going to say patient. Think about all those personalities, egos, shenanigans, outbursts he had to deal with from high school students over the years, and some of the adults in the community theater as well. Oh yeah, and there was that one time where he threw his conductor's baton at someone in the orchestra pit, and I think injured their eye. I don't remember all the details, but that seemed very out of character when it came to patience for Mr. Wilson. For me personally, I did things he should have been very upset with me for. As an example, I erased all the light cues in the light board for Brighton Beach Memoirs. I confessed what I had done. He just looked at me with his ears a tad red and said, well, I hope you have 3 hours to spare tonight. The other time, I was on a very high ladder on stage adjusting lights for our student-directed one-act plays, which I should not have been doing unsupervised. He caught me, walked onto the stage, looked up at me on that ladder and said, if you fall and get blood on my stage and you're not dead, I will kill you. And then he just went along his merry way. I'm going to miss that patience and miss that great sense of humor.
I miss him. He allowed for, these little families to happen, because that's what theater gives, is I think some familial kind of place, and I'll always be grateful for that. The impact on my life, on so many other people that he knew over the years is nothing that can be measured, I don't think. He was a loving man and a guy that loved what the stage and what art could tell and bring. So I'm grateful for that. I hope anybody out there that knew him knows how better their life is for it. Miss you, Pete.
I first met Pete when I was 15, and I had to do community service, so I had the option between putting books on the bookshelf, organizing the library, or the community theater, helping paint and build sets, and I opted to do that. We started to build a little rapport, so when I got into high school and saw he was the theater director there, it was easy for me to pick up drama classes, and from there he asked me to come and audition at Theater Capel. I was in some shows over several years, and for many years Theater Capel was, and still is, a home to me. And Pete ended up, over that 10-year period of time, becoming a dear friend to me and a mentor. I always turned to theater when I was dealing with difficult times, and it was a place that I felt safe and comfortable. And I can't thank Pete enough for who he was to me, who he will be and still is. And every time I'm at an audition, I think of, him sitting across the room in the black box theater, looking down at his paperwork, looking back at us, and I'm gonna miss him very much.
Mr. Wilson, for me, is synonymous with the word home. He made the community theater and the high school program into a home for so many kids, me included. Because of him, we all had a safe space that we could go to just be ourselves and know that he accepted us and valued us for whatever it was that we could bring to the table. Because of him, we had a place to go where we could contribute to something that was bigger than ourselves, that was really meaningful. And, having his support and knowing that he liked what you were doing, best feeling ever. Definitely better than when he made that noise that meant he was kind of mad at you. He was the best part of growing up in Capel, and I'm so grateful that I got to work with him. Walking into rehearsal for a Mr. Wilson show, you felt like you were home.
If I were to use one word to describe Mr. Wilson, it would be dedication. He was dedicated to his town, dedicated to Theater Capel, dedicated to his students. That dedication to his students put me where I am today. He would take anyone that might be interested in theater and make sure that they got to participate. And his dedication to arts education has affected many people over the years, and his legacy will hopefully continue to affect them and allow them to participate in theater and the entertainment world.
The one word I would use to describe his directing and his teaching and his impact is confidence. Not only the confidence he had in his vision so that you never doubted his directions and his corrections and his notes, but the confidence that he had in us. It was how he nurtured talent without flattering. Because when I was a little kid, I would say, "I'm afraid I'll mess up my lines." And he would say, "You won't." And I would say, I'm afraid I'm not going to nail that audition, or I'm nervous that I won't get my big scene right. And he would say, "You will." Confidence was how he lived, and confidence is what he gave me.
Over the years, being able to work with him, I saw someone that unapologetically was always very truthful and honest and forward. And I know that all of us were on the wrong end of his honesty every once in a while, because he didn't hold back. If he felt like you could do something better, or you could work harder, or maybe you weren't giving it your full effort, he really challenged you to make sure that you were being honest with yourself, that that was what you could give, and that that was the best that you had.
Because you see, I've known Pete for over 50 years. The first word that, of course, would come to mind would be teacher. He was my 8th grade English teacher, but almost immediately thereafter became my director and directed me for literally decades. At one point, he was even an actor for me as I directed him, applying all the things I'd learned from him. I would say more than anything, he was a mentor during a large portion of my life. And of course, he was my brother-in-law. And I have to say, over time, Pete was a confidant. But looking back through all of those times, I would say the one word that always was there, whether it was when he was a teacher or a director or a mentor, was ally. When I think about Pete today, I remember him as an ally.
Maybe more importantly than anything today, Pete was the driving force behind this very space that we're in today. Those of you that knew him well know that he did not take the answer no sitting down. All that meant was we've either not done enough work, he needed to work harder, or he hadn't asked the right people. So we began to work initially to create the old fire station theater on Moore Road. That then led to Pete championing this facility and the efforts to get the sales tax passed to fund it and the initial planning that we were able to do to see this thing to fruition as it is now. I firmly believe we would not be here in this space today had Pete not championed this project.